All right. So welcome, folks, to the people that are here on the Zoom call. Thank you so much for showing up and sharing a little bit of chat before. It feels really lovely to me, and hopefully it's okay for you as well. And to people that are joining us on the YouTube channel afterwards, welcome. Uh, this is, as you may know, part of True North Insight, and I'm one of the Dharma teachers with True North Insight. And I give one of these talks most Wednesdays, unless I'm elsewhere. And I mull it over kind of a few days before. What am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? But I usually have to wait till the day of for some inspiration to hit that really lands for me. And today I received an email from a friend, Angie, this morning called View from My Window. And I've shared in the chat here, and I'll share it down below in the YouTube video as well, an article from Board Panda website that's talking about, it's actually a Facebook group called View from My Window. And each person in this group, they say that, they ask everybody to post one photo and to put where they are and what time of day, and not to like make a video or Zoom or like, a panorama or anything, just a photo from your window. And it's, I believe their intention was a way that during this COVID pandemic lockdown, and as we were talking at the beginning, the second wave coming, well, we're in it, second wave, definitely, but maybe more lockdown depending on where you're living. Yeah, so when I opened up this view from my window, and it was just in an email, and it was kind of a stream of images that showed up with little synopsis of where people were posting from, it really struck me. It was quite a visceral, felt sensation of wonderment. And I was also then kind of surprised at the experience that I had looking at these. So just some of the things that came in the first few images were the view out somebody's tent window of elephants in Botswana, where they were. Another one, the next one was like the incredible aurora borealis and northern lights in Alaska. Another one was in Canmore, BC, and because of the pandemic and lockdown and people not driving around and doing so much stuff, the town was really quiet. And the moose, how do you say plural of mooses? The moose, the many moose beings came into town and were like right up at this person's window, this huge moose looking in the window. It was amazing. And kangaroos in rural Australia, right in someone's backyard. And then in the next picture, there's these amazing, what I would call parrots. I'm sure they have a particular name, like with like a toucan or something on someone's railing in Uganda. And there was just a diversity of amazing and beautiful. It really struck me how narrow my worldview had become recently. Like I'd kind of forgotten about the rest of the world. That sounds ridiculous to say, maybe. But in a sense, of course I haven't, but it really stood out. Wow, look at that, look at that, look at that. Yeah, so it really just kind of shifted my perception of my little world that was getting a little narrow and tight and limited in this time. Our little COVID bubbles that we're in, and so our view may be literally smaller because we're not going so many places, we're not traveling, we're not maybe interacting in the same way, but also emotionally and physically, mentally, has our view gotten smaller, gotten tight? And this is something we were checking in about at the beginning here before we started recording. Has my worldview, my point of view gotten also constricted, limited, in a bit of lockdown? And I also, yeah. So some of the other ones then that really stood out for me in this view from my window, there was this one from someone named Thomas George, and it was a picture of like one of those oil rigs in the middle of the ocean, and it was really gray and dull oceanscape. And they posted, "I work on an offshore drilling rig in the east coast of India, and I have not been able to get home, and I'm presently stuck on the rig." At this point of their sharing, it was 80 days, but who knows, they may still be there. And the view outside was dull and gloomy because of a cyclone. And it's just, wow. Can you imagine being stuck on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean with cyclones and other storms? And yeah, that was another one that really struck me. Another one was a picture from a nurse practitioner from her hotel room in New York City, downtown, of just, skyscrapers all around. And she was a nurse practitioner that was sharing, this is her view now. She's left her 5 young children at home in Michigan to answer the call to serve and assist at the epicenter of the pandemic. Amazing. And then, so they have all these incredible animal and nature and sunsets and beautiful vistas in some of them. And then there was this next one was a garbage can, just like looking out the window and a wall pretty close by and a couple garbage cans. And this person, Lynn Coffin, said, "This is the only view from my only window. And I love it. I'm staying with my son and daughter at my son and daughter-in-law's house in Seattle in the guest room in the basement. This is the most beautiful view because I'm staying with them for as long as it takes. I'm glad and grateful to be here and not alone in quarantine in my retirement community, thanks to family." Isn't that beautiful? The most beautiful view of just a wall with garbage cans, but she's so happy to be there. And there was another similar one of somebody who's was in Bulgaria and really happy to be. Her son was home with her, and she works in isolation as a therapist online. And she said, "Find forgotten things that make you happy at the moment, or look for a challenge in the new ones. Be healthy and save your life." Find forgotten things that make you happy at the moment and look for a challenge in new ones. Yeah, so there's many inspiring little stories there, but so there's the visual, the literal view from the window, of what that is. But then also when you read them and you reflect on all these different people in different infinite combination of locations and scenarios, and you can see their view of their perspective on how they are in isolation, what it's like for them, and sometimes very painful situations, and sometimes joyous. So I wanted to share a little bit about what the Buddha taught about views. A view in the language of Pali, the teachings are first recorded in as far as we know, the first recorded that we have access to is the language of Pali. And so I've put the word there in the chat. It's Ditti, Ditthi. And there's quite a few teachings on view. And some of you will recognize that there's wise view in the Eightfold Path. But what I'm talking about here today is more view, which means in just this part, Ditti, it means belief, dogma, theory, speculation, groundless or unfounded opinions. Okay, so this is the type of view that I'm talking about tonight, is just, all this, stuff we were talking about at the beginning there of views and opinions that are shared and passed on, and just unfounded, groundless speculation. You just agree with the argument they're making, or they make a convincing YouTube video or whatever. So I wanted to share some of the Dharma regarding this. So just let this slide by if this is not your interest. Some people like to find these suttas, and so I'm just sharing it for people that want that. You do not need to know anything about this. It's completely just for people that want that. So in the Anguttara Nikaya, so I've put it there in the chat, AN 1093 is one of the things I'm going to be sharing about. Okay, so I'm going to summarize this teaching. That this is Anathapindika. There, Anathapindika is a householder, a person like us, that's not a monk, not a monastic. They haven't left the household life, in the time of the Buddha. They're a householder is the term that's used. But this person was someone that followed the teachings of the Buddha and, practiced with the monastic community whenever they could. And so in this sharing, this person, Anathapindika, was out in the middle of the day, and the thought occurred, they were thinking of going to see the Buddha, and they realized, oh, it's the time of the day for seclusion when he'll be practicing in silence, and I'm not going to disturb that. And then they thought about, well, maybe I'll go visit the monks. And then, no, the monks will also be meditating right now. If they're in seclusion, I don't want to bother them. And so they're wandering by this park. It's called Jeta's Grove. And they see this group of other wanderers. But these wanderers were from many other persuasions and teachings and practices. They weren't followers of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. And it's interesting the way it's described here. You might relate to this. So he headed to the park of the wanderers of other persuasions. And so on this, then it describes it this way, which I think is amazing. The followers of the Buddha practice a lot of silence and silent practice. And so not this group of people, they were having great discussions and debates and arguments and idle chatter, it would be called. But in the teaching, it actually says they were discussing many kinds of bestial topics. And I was like, bestial? What do you mean? And so I looked it up because it didn't really didn't make sense to me. And the definition of this means like an animal or animals, savagely cruel and depraved. I don't know, that doesn't seem fair to animals to me. I think many animals are kinder and wiser than some of us humans. But anyways, that's how it's described. And it gave reference to another sutta that I then looked up about what do they mean by bestial topics? You know, what are these topics that they're talking about that are so like cruel, savagely cruel and depraved? So here's the list of what they were talking about. Conversations about kings, robbers, and ministers of state. That's familiar for me. Armies, alarms, and battles. Yes, a lot of those conversations happening for me these days. Food and drink. Yes, yes. Clothing, furniture, garlands, and scents. It means like jewelry and stuff. So 'tis the shopping season coming upon us. Relatives, vehicles, villages, towns, cities, countrysides, women and heroes, the gossip of the street and the well, meaning, you know, the stories told around the watering hole, tales of the dead, tales of diversity, the creation of the world and the sea, talk about whether things exist or not. Well, that sounds like most days for some of us. That's so great that it's broken down like that. Like, and these are described as being really unwise and unproductive talk. So you can imagine like this big throng just yapping it up and debating and thinking this and that. And they're making a great noise and racket. So, but then they see Anathapindika coming along and they know he follows the teachings of the Buddha and practices silent meditation, etc. So they're all like, shh, be quiet, be quiet. Anathapindika is coming. Let's quiet down or else he won't come over. He'll think we're, you know, not worthy or something. Be quiet, good sirs. Don't make noise. Here comes Anathapindika, a disciple of Gautama, which is the Buddha's birth name, the contemplative. And these people are quite fond of quietude and speak in praise of quietude. Maybe if he perceives our group as quiet, he will consider us worthy and will come our way. And so they all quieted down. I could just picture this so well. So then Anathapindika comes over and greets them courteously. And then he's sitting down and this group of wanderers say to him, tell us, householder, what views Gautama, the contemplative, has? What views does the Buddha have? Anathapindika answers, Venerable sirs, I don't know entirely what views the Blessed One has. Well, so you don't know what views the Buddha has. Well, tell us then, what views do the monks have? And he says, I don't even know entirely what views the monks have. So you don't know what views the Buddha has, and you don't know what views the monks have. Well, tell us what your views are then, they say. And he says, it wouldn't be difficult for me to expound to you what views I have, but please let me hear first of all your views. Each of you tell me your views, and then it won't be difficult for me to expound to you the views that I have. So he gets them to go first. It's very wise. Then they start going around, and there's a certain way that conversations go at this time, especially debates. And maybe you'll hear this, but so these are some of the things that then they say. So the first one says, the cosmos is eternal. Only this is true. Anything otherwise is worthless. This is the sort of view I have, that the cosmos is eternal. Then another one says, the cosmos is not eternal. Only this is true. Anything otherwise is worthless. This is the sort of view I have. You can see already how this is going to go. The next one says the cosmos is finite, and another one says the cosmos is infinite. The next topic that often comes up in these teachings is the soul and the body are the same. And they say this is true, anything else is worthless. This is the sort of view I have. And then the next person says the soul is one thing and the body is another. Do any of these conversations sound familiar to you, right? With friends and family debating, no, yes, well, I think, and it is. Another topic is after death, a Tathagata exists. Tathagata is a term that means one thus gone, which means the Buddha, which means, or a Buddha, one that has gone this way, has traversed this path, has become enlightened and awakened. And so they're saying after death, a Tathagata still exists. And then the next one says, no, they don't exist anymore. They both do exist and they both do not exist. It goes back and forth. Only this is true. Anything else is worthless. This is the sort of view I have. All right. So when all of this was said, all these different views and said, what's the word, absolutely, then Anathapindika takes his turn and says to them, for you that say the cosmos is eternal, and only this is true, anything else is worthless. This view is arising from inappropriate attention, or in dependence on the words of another. Yes, some of that happening. Now, he says, this view has been brought into being. You see, it's created, it's brought into being, it's fabricated, it's willed, it's dependently originated, meaning it's come to be because of conditions. It's dependent upon a lot of different factors and conditions, a great deal that has brought that view to be, you see? Then he goes on to point out that whatever is fabricated, whatever is arising from a bunch of other conditions is inconstant. You see, it's changing, it's variable, it's conditioned, it's not like a inherent truth. And then lastly, he says, whatever is inconstant, changing, conditioned, is dukkha, is stress. It's kind of the punchline there. So he gets them all to tell their views, and then he says, now, whatever views are arising in these ways is changing, conditioned, and whatever is conditioned is unreliable, is stressful, is what's called dukkha. So then they say, well, we've all told our views. Now, what's your view? And so that's the view that Anathapindika is bringing, that whatever is brought into being is fabricated, willed, dependently originated, inconstant, is stress, is dukkha, is unreliable. And whatever is stress is not me, it's not who I am, it's not myself. And this is the sort of view I have. this can be quite a liberating view for us to notice when we have clung to a view that's conditioned and impermanent and changing. When we hold tightly to it, certainly you've experienced, it causes stress. And it causes stress because we take it on as me and mine and who I am. Yeah. Okay. So the story goes on, and then Anathapindika meets with the Buddha and tells him what happened, and he is praised by the Buddha as, good job, you did, you represented well, and we should all listen to you. Well done. There's another sutta, which is this same type of idea that's coming from the Buddha is speaking in this one, and this is in the Majjhima Nikaya, number 63, for those that like that. And you'll hear the themes, and these are common themes, right? Because, boy, haven't I asked these questions over and over in my life? It's kind of like the big ones. What's the meaning of life? Is life eternal? Is there a soul? Is there a me? What happens after death? We started asking these questions when we were 7 or earlier. We asked them a lot when we were 17, and we are still asking them. And so this is what the Buddha says about these views and these questions. I won't give the context here just for time, but again, people were always trying to pin the Buddha down. What do you declare? What do you state about these important topics? Because there was a lot of debate with the different factions around these things. Some would say it's this way, others would say it that way. So they were always trying to, what's the deal with trying to get him to say? And so he says, and what is undeclared by me? What is declared and what is undeclared? So he says, the cosmos is eternal, is undeclared by me. The cosmos is not eternal, is undeclared by me. The cosmos is finite. The cosmos is infinite. The soul and the body are the same. The soul is one thing and the body is another. After death, a Tathagata exists. After death, a Tathagata does not exist. All these same list of things. Each one of them, he would say, is declared, is both declared and undeclared by me. So basically he's saying, you can't pin me down to one or the other. Now, why does he say that? And he says, why are they undeclared by me? So here it is. Because they are not connected with the goal. They are not fundamental to what is called the holy life. They do not lead to disenchantment, dispassion, cessation, calming, direct knowledge, self-awakening, and unbinding. That's why they are undeclared by me. That little list of words there could all be summed up with the word nibbana, which means nirvana or liberation or freedom, ultimate freedom from suffering. So he's saying that all of these questions are basically the wrong questions. If I tell you, yes, this is true, or no, this is not true, either way, it's going to cause you more suffering. That's really interesting. He could see that either way, if he was to put something definitive on any one of these points, this way or that way, people would cling to it. They were just waiting. Tell us, what is it, so I can cling to it and then tell everyone else they're wrong and I'm right. And he said, these are the wrong questions. To understand that these the goal of ending suffering is not dependent on these questions or their answers. That's huge. That's really big. And so then he says, well, what is declared by me? He says, all of these things are undeclared. I'm not putting any pegs in a hole. What is declared by me? He says, this is stress. This is the origin of stress, the cause of stress. This is the cessation or the ending of stress, and this is the way to the leading of the ending of stress. And some might recognize that's the Four Noble Truths right there. This is what stress is. This is what causes it. This is how it ends, and this is the way to its ending. So to see what views am I clinging to, and is it bringing liberation? Is it bringing freedom from stress and suffering, or is it causing more? And to see when we are caught and when we are clinging, and to ask ourselves the right questions. Is this the way to the ending of suffering, or to its continuing? Yeah. Another little thing that I did this weekend, and I'll share the link in below the YouTube video, and I'll put it here again in the chat, is no, I don't want that part. It's called eastpointpeace.org. So anyways, it was a Kingian based on Dr. Martin Luther King nonviolence, Kingian nonviolence workshop. And well, it's a mini workshop, but it was excellent. I learned a lot, and it was really just a brief introduction. I'm probably going to do more, I hope, to really unpack it, but it was really related to views and clinging to views, even though, they didn't specify that, but about the different kinds of conflict we get into, and really looking at, there's 4 different kinds of conflict, which if you can see what kind of conflict it is, it can help you see how to navigate skillfully with that. Yeah, and 6 principles of nonviolence. There was a lot of wonderful teachings about what nonviolence means in this day and age, well, in any day and age. So encouragement to check that out. I'll put just here, I don't have the link, right? I did have it earlier, but you might not be able to see it. So it's Kingian nonviolence workshop. But if you just look that up, you'll find the East Bay Meditation Center, I think. It's EBMC, must be, or Mindfulness. EBMC, I'll just put, because I'm not sure what their acronym stands for. Yeah, so encouragement, if this interests you, this field, to check that out. There was a lot of, I might speak more about it at another time, but I've said enough about that today, I think. So we're going to practice to, it's the same maybe with so many things we're trying to understand about our own conditioning. The first way to practice with it is just with mindfulness, meaning to see it, to recognize when we're stuck in a view about ourselves, like, I'm this, or I'm no good at this, or they think this of me, or views of others, they are, they should be, uh, our views about the world, our views about politics, our views about the pandemic and how things should be handled. So to first recognize when we're stuck in a view, and is it causing us more suffering, or is it leading us to wisdom, to compassion, to calm, insight? The second way to practice with this is to first recognize, so that's the mindfulness, to see, wow, I'm really stuck on this view. That's number one. And then secondly is to see what sensations are accompanying this in the body. You might notice very little because there's kind of a disconnect, a numbness perhaps, like, oh, all the energy and awareness is up in the head and I don't really even, I don't know, I can't even feel my body when I'm stuck in a view. Or you might notice, oh, a lot of tension, a lot of rigidness, ready, fight or flight, or contraction in the heart, or uh, agitation in the gut. So to see what sensations are in the body when views are clung to would be a second step of exploring views. And then thirdly, you might be able to reflect, is there a story feeding the view? Is there fuel that I'm adding to this storyline, fueling the suffering here, fueling my position? Yeah, those are some ways to work with understanding this fetter of views, is what it's called, a fetter. And I think that's it. So let's practice. Yeah. Pardon me, I'm just going to have a little sip of water, and then we're going to, so just get yourself comfortable. We'll do a little meditation practice now. That's going to look really good on the video. So allow yourself to be comfortable. Feel free to lay down if that's what your body needs. Or you could be standing or walking or sitting. Welcoming all of our animal companions that are sharing practice with us. And then when your posture feels comfortable, begin to rest and relax your eyes. If you don't feel comfortable with your eyes closed, or just choose to practice with eyes open, just let your eyes rest downward, slightly open, not taking in entertainment. So we bring our hands into stillness and our eyes into stillness, and just open into the experience of hearing right now. Noticing any tension in the body that isn't needed right now. Is there anything that could soften, relax? And then choose an anchor for your practice tonight. So you might choose hearing as your anchor, or the felt experience of the body sitting, or you might settle with the breath as your anchor. Just see what feels intuitively best for you tonight. If you're in a place that has a lot of sounds happening, then you might choose hearing as your anchor, just noticing the sounds coming and going. And for some people, coming in close to the breath can sometimes be more agitating. And so you could just keep your attention a bit wider, just feeling the body sitting. And invite this quality of curiosity to kind of see what your view is like right now. What is the internal view of your window right now? What's the state of your mind, your heart, your energy, your world? There may be a sense of confusion or anxiety or heaviness or grief, or there may be ease, joy, contentment. And however it is for you right now, can that just be how it is? That's what's here right now. And at some points, you might notice the mind picks up into a story or a view. And can you just gently recognize that? Oh, I've just been caught a little bit in a view. And if an opinion or point of view feels particularly sticky, a theory, a belief, then you might inquire about that second aspect. What sensations come with this? Do I disconnect from the body? Is there tension somewhere in the belly, the hands, the jaw, the eyes? And if this view feels even more sticky, it's still holding on and being clung to, we might then notice, is it being fueled? Am I adding to it and justifying it and holding on in some way? And also, we might notice the times when we are free from holding a view. We're just resting with our anchor, noticing perhaps thoughts come and go a little more lightly. And we can recognize that as the absence of clinging to views. Notice if there's any tension that's come from thoughts being clung to. Just recognizing when we're caught in views, but also recognizing when we're not caught. There may be moments or just a moment of resting, open awareness with your anchor. And thoughts might arise and pass. Whatever has been brought into being is fabricated, willed, dependently originated, that is inconstant. And whatever is inconstant is stress. Whatever is stress is not me, is not what I am, is not myself. So I just want to clarify that the reason I was confused about the name of from that workshop of Kingian nonviolence is the teacher Kazuo Haga. It was hosted by the East Bay Meditation Center, EBMC. Um, but the website you want to also check out is called eastpointpeace.org. And I've put that there in the chat. And that's where they have the bigger trainings around several great, wonderful, yeah, lots of good stuff on there. So eastpointpeace.org. So in the YouTube video, I'll put those links down below, and on the Zoom here, they're in the chat. But also, if you can't access the chat, you can just email me if you're interested in any of those bits. And for folks on the YouTube, I'll just say good night, and then on the Zoom, we can stay if you're able to for a few more minutes. Thank you for supporting. There's links down below for True North Insight, and also to support me as you're able. So thank you. Good night.